Skepticism is counterintuitive. Our brains naturally are curious. However, the brain likes to think it has all the answers and doesn't really seek answers unless you train your brain, or you're lucky enough to have a brain that just keeps wanting to ask questions. So for the most part, skepticism is counterintuitive. The subconscious does not like to not know. And because of this, people have justifications for their actions. A lot of times it's ignorance. Maybe they're not even aware of what's going on or how their actions can affect themselves and others. There are associations that people won't even make, even if they are aware. Now, if you can get beyond the ignorance, and if you can get beyond the justifications, then you come to a point where there are actual associations. Actual association is one of the biggest problems with every human being on the planet. Once you can actually associate what it is you think, do, preach, whatever, versus what you actually do in real life and what your actions are doing with the rest of society, until you connect the dots to make these actual associations, you're living a lie. You're an immoral bastard. So let's start my big long list of actual associations people don't make. A lot of people fall victim to their own sexual repression. Whatever it may be, there's so many different variances on things I won't even begin to speculate. Even if you were in a normal relationship with a normal person, people don't communicate with each other. A lot of people will spend their lives in quiet repression, never really getting what they really want. And that has damage on a psyche. This is your life. This is your shot to do what it is that you find right and pleasurable and things like that. And if you don't do it, if you never do it, you're going to die and nobody's going to care whether you did it or not. Violence. People won't tie the violence into what they think or do. And when they do, they have all kinds of justifications for it. They'll say people are violent because people are evil. But that's not true. People are of learned behavior. There are many people who are not violent. There are many people who are. And though there could be people who have a genetic predisposition to be violent, that certainly does not encompass or qualify the entire amount of violence that the human race does upon itself. Because you got all kinds of level of violence, whether it's spanking your kids or beating your wife, or cops beating down criminals, or soldiers fighting freedom fighters, or whatever the situation of violence you want to escalate it to or make it as little as. There's all kinds of justifications, and people won't make the actual associations with the acts of violence and where it's coming from, who it's coming from, and who's really behind it all. Especially if it's themselves. Violence can never be justified. People say, well, what about self-defense? Okay, well, you know what? When you're defending yourself, you're not aggressing violence on someone. You're not starting it. You're not hitting anybody. Speaking, no matter how vile and vulgar and over the line it might be, is not physical violence. And what about self-defense? Leads to this long justifications of, well, shouldn't we protect other people? Shouldn't we protect the innocent? Isn't it right that America went to World War II to save the Jews from the Holocaust? No, we went to World War II because of Pearl Harbor. And how come America didn't go save the other 5 or more million people who weren't Jews from the Holocaust? How come it wasn't good for those reasons? And I don't want to discredit verbal abuse, because verbal abuse can be just as bad as violent abuse. Psychological damage, permanent. Sometimes the violence isn't skin against skin. Sometimes the violence can be vocal waves versus neuron receptors. But people won't ever make that actual association. People will make associations when their religion equals bigotry, when it's easily displayable. People won't accept the facts when it goes against their God. You can show them flat-out evidence. I've known people who have seen the skulls in the Smithsonian and in the New York Museum and still are creationists. Another actual association people won't make is that true human morality lives independently above and beyond whatever religious fairy tale you believe in. And this is easily displayable and provable. Another actual association, and this one is almost impossible to see from inside the faith-based mindset, is that you cannot even be intellectually honest if you equate the truth with some unprovable entity. The moral unaccountability of prayer is unaccountable in both morality and action. People will make the actual association that each life is precious. Not just the people you know, not just the humans, but all of life is precious. Go ahead and squash the bug, though. There's plenty of them. People will make the actual association that when you act immoral, you are immoral. When you make an excuse for your immorality, you are immoral. That's what immoral is. So think twice before you squash the bug, but squash the bug. Unless, of course, it's a rare or nearly extinct species of bug, then, don't squash it. Another actual association people won't make is that cliches are an excuse for non-thought. And these aren't just the simple cliches that you might think of, but even the biblical or religious cliches, because my bet is that most of you who are religious, your entire religion is a cliche. People won't associate the difference between financial security and greed. And people have a hard time determining where is the line of what is enough. Where is the limit between what it takes for a person to be happy or even extra rich, but still the line where there's this other people who are super rich, which is immoral and wrong. No one can find that dividing line. How much does it take for a person to live? No one will make those actual associations, and the closer you are to having the more money, the wider that line becomes. People have a hard time associating that their patriotism is bigotry, just like their religion is bigotry. It all goes hand in hand. It's all bigotry. People don't make the actual association that wars start at home. And it's all based on fear. People fear what they don't know. So anything that's different than what you are, that's what you're bigoted towards if you're a bigot. I keep hearing this term religious tolerance. That's an oxymoron. That's just dumb. If you're in a religion and you really believe that with your whole heart, no matter what it is, even if you believe in Juju of the Mountain, if someone's not believing your religion, then they're suffering the consequences of what a believer of your religion believes. People will make the association that every piece of science and every piece of technology, even if it came up with by some kind of religious scientist, that the technology itself is anti-religion and anti-Bible and anti-Christianity and anti-Islamic. None of the fairy tale religions support physics or the astronomy of it all, let alone the evolution of it all. People talking about evolution, there could be false evolution. Wake up, idiots. That's like saying the stars are real close or that the physics of the atoms is real big. People will make the actual association how silly they are when they're trying to use science to support their religions. Outside of a philosophical community, in the real world where people are living their morals and not thinking about them, morality is like pissing in the pool. People are going to get away with whatever they think they can get away with. That's why the masses are morons and so much evil is being done in the world is because of the mass ignorance. We got to do something about it. Peace.